Good morning, everybody out there. It is November 29th, 8 a.m. Eastern. I've got my coffee, so that hopefully you got yours too. That means it's time for Coffee with the Cowbell. Glad to see you this morning. I am Ricardo Wilkins, resident Teams Geek, here to geek out with you. I may be a Teams geek, but I made a rookie move this morning and did an update on my demo environment right before starting this thing up. That was not smart. It worked out for me. It's up and running, but that could have been bad. I don't know why I did it. I'm a sucker for an update. Anyway. That is unrelated. Good to see you. If you are joining me, you may be joining me on one of several platforms. So wherever you're joining from, live or on demand, welcome. Glad you could join. Glad you're watching. And let's just get into it. So since I'm telling funny stories this morning, the other funny story was that in that demo environment, I was trying to get my camera working. I was trying to get USB, I guess, pass through for my VM. And I'm still working on it, but I was not successful in my attempt yesterday. But in doing that, I thought about cameras and mics in general and thought I'd just spend a few minutes talking about how to troubleshoot your Microsoft Teams experience if your camera and or microphone are having troubles. And of course, if you're out there and have access to chat on whichever one of those platforms you're on, feel free to use it. Feel free to put any question. I'm happy to take any question and pivot and talk about what you want to talk about. But that was just an idea that came to me and I have had people ask for help on that in terms of my mic's not working, my camera's not working. What do I do? So I thought I would talk a little bit about that. So in doing that, I'll start with, obviously this is Teams, and I'll start with the settings area, your three dots up here, and your settings. Because in general, this could be the first place to start, especially if you've got a brand new camera maybe that maybe that isn't built into the laptop or, some brand new USB camera, right? You want to make sure it's working before your next meeting. You come here in settings and you see devices. And so we're talking cameras initially. I'll scroll all the way down. You'll see the camera drop down. Now, if I have been successful in integrating my camera into this environment, this would have been a little more interesting. As you can see, there's nothing for me to do there because it sees no camera. I still don't know why. But if there was a camera or multiple cameras, this is where I would choose them from them. And not only that, I would have a preview window of what the camera shows. And then the other thing I'd say here, depending on your camera, it may have its own controls for adjusting things like resolution or brightness and things like that. And I believe there is a mechanism here to let you do that as well. Typically, most cameras are kind of by default ready to go, but you can make all those adjustments and preview it and make sure it's working here. In terms of your microphone, you can see that that's here. Of course, I don't have that working on mine yet either, but that's where you would choose from here. And essentially, you are, just kind of presetting the choices that you're gonna have when that meeting starts. When that meeting starts, you'll get another opportunity to make changes if you need to. And so many of you might be asking, why do I even get these options? I mean, I've only got one camera, and many people do. Then you got folks like me that have 6 microphones and 4 different cameras. So these drop downs are important to me. And as such, also this drop down can be important. So what it's saying here, and what it, I guess, may often, probably often says for you, is custom setup. And this, we'll see this again when we open up a Teams meeting. And that basically means it's some combination of a microphone and a microphone and camera. That are, the two are different, you know. If, for instance, you had, let's say, trying to think of, well, so as an example, a Jabra headset. That comes to mind because that's one I have. I'm not, nothing to do specifically with that brand, but if you have a headset with a built-in microphone, but in this case, let's say a Jabra, it would say Jabra whatever here, whatever the model is, in this drop down, and in a drop down in your Teams meeting, because both the microphone and the speakers in this particular case are the same model. So that's what this custom setup is about. I think I may have said camera previously, but this is a custom setup for the audio devices, the speaker and the microphone. If they're both the same device, you'll get the name of it here. Otherwise, if they're two different devices, you'll get custom setup. Anyway, what we were trying to show here is come into settings and devices is the first step to figuring out what's going on. Why am I not hearing anything? Let me check my speaker drop down. Is it the speaker that I'm expecting? This is a demo VM, so it's saying remote audio, but yours will likely say something like maybe Realtek or or some, whatever the name of your PC's speakers are. So sometimes that's not helpful because people, when they have speaker problems, it's the first time they've even paid attention to the name of their audio, right? And so it may be hard to come in here and say, well, what do I pick? So you may just have to keep picking things until something works. But usually this is where the problem is. The other thing I'll say about speakers is it's not always Teams' fault. If you have external speakers, make sure they're powered on, right? Make sure connections are there. Make sure the volume indicator down here in the taskbar is up, right? Because as you can see, and again, I don't have a lot of selections here, but on your PC, you may have multiple selections here. What I did is I clicked the volume, and then I clicked the little speaker thing here. It may look a little different in Windows 10, but this will be where you have a list of the different speakers that you may be able to use. So, it gets a little hairy when, you're trying to jump into a meeting and you're trying to figure this out. But I mean, that's why we're talking about it. So settings device is the first place to start. Let's fire up a meeting to kind of talk about the next place where that would come up. Fire up a meeting here. So starting up a meeting usually looks like this. Camera shown here, on and off is there, and your ability to select that camera is the dots there. So if nothing's showing here and you're expecting it to, you need to hit the gear box and come down and choose a camera. Okay. Or choose a different camera if the one you're trying to use is not working. Another common reason why the camera might not be working, sometimes some other app has taken control of it. So if your camera that usually works all the time suddenly isn't working, make sure you haven't opened up some other app that could be using your camera. In a worst case scenario, it's an app that you opened and thought you closed, but for whatever reason, that app did not cleanly let go of the camera. That'd be a bigger problem. Worst case scenario, reboot your machine, but hopefully it's something simpler than that. So again, starting up a meeting, gearbox, there's where the camera setting is. And It is also where the audio, it's basically where device settings are, but I wanted to just close that here. Camera, gearbox, but then here's our audio. And you can see there is a different looking button here that still takes you to the same place, device settings, right? Why did they do this differently? Maybe because, at least on this one, like hovering over this one doesn't tell me what camera it is, but hovering over this guy, if you can see behind the mouse hand, shows me what the mic and speaker settings currently are. So that's a quick little, I use that often since I have so many mics and or speakers and mic setups to see which one is chosen, if it's the right one. So I probably every time I go into a meeting, I probably hover over this to make sure it looks good. If it doesn't look good, then you can click it and make your choices here. Okay. Again, I will say, if you are using several different kinds of mics and speakers, and if some of them are USB and so forth, I mean, it might not necessarily be a problem, but this could be something you weren't expecting from last time, depending on if you've turned off the headset, or taken out the USB dongle, things like that. So it's not necessarily a problem, but this is always good to check, because you may just need to make an adjustment here going in. And the reason you want to do all this is because you don't want to go into the meeting with the wrong configuration. And classic example is you get in there and someone's trying to say hey, because you just joined the meeting, but your mic's not ready, and then it looks like you're ignoring them. That's the part I don't like about microphone issues. And then there's once I get my stuff fixed, there's a whole apologies session and all that good stuff. This usually happens on Monday morning, so this is Tuesday, so you should be fine. I did update my VM environment, change the pic. I had to find something that in some kind of way matched my swag. It's the closest picture I could find, so there you go. Cheers. Anyway, now that you're in the meeting, there again is, of course, still opportunity to change your devices. Device settings is still there. Excuse me. Same setup as before for video and for audio. So device settings, plenty of places to get at that. Once you're in a meeting, though, I don't know that I've ever gotten out of the meeting and come over to settings here to do anything. So you should be able to do whatever troubleshooting you need to do in the Teams environment. But it really boils down to this device settings area. Yeah. Oh, and then the other thing is if for some reason I have had my camera have issues during a meeting, not that it wasn't working, but it just started, acting funny, be sure to turn your camera off in that case. And you can certainly make these changes on the fly while you're in the meeting. So that's another thing you can do there. All right. And then the last thing that is not so obvious that you may need to check, particularly, I guess in this case, specifically related to microphones and why is my microphone not working, is to check your Windows settings, or I guess your Mac settings, but we're talking Windows here. So actually typing microphone takes me to microphone setup. And, you may you may need to come in here. Not there really. You may need to come in here and run through this. That may help. But really what I was looking for, I think, is sound settings. Yep. And so input, choosing a device for speaking or recording. This needs to be something that you expect. And again, because all of these things are because my environment doesn't have anything, but this is a volume indicator for your input. So this is an area, system sound, where you might need to tweak it if something's really not working the way you expect. Including, it's a troubleshooting area for input devices. Input is your microphone, output is your speakers. So all of these settings here in system sound might be needed if something's really going wonky. Again, how did I get there? Your search, and this I started with microphone, but sound settings is probably the better approach. Or if you're already in settings, use the search there, but it's system and sound. Okay, so that is a non-Teams related tip. That means something on your PC is having an issue, and you may need to do some adjustments here. Okay. So that is all of the areas I can think of related to troubleshooting your devices. So I hope that was helpful if you never really knew that those areas were there. And then it may have been helpful to even see the Windows PC, the Windows settings area. So hopefully that was helpful. Glad you could join. I want to get you going on your day. Go ahead and finish your coffee. Glad you joined me. This has been Coffee with the Cowbell.